Welcome to the OHL Fanboys podcast, live from the MasterCard Memorial Cup in Windsor, Ontario at the WFCU Centre. I am Steve McLean. As always, with me is Brian Thompson, and of course a very special guest with us on this episode. We've been trying to get him for about 3 years now, the commissioner of the OHL and the CHL, Mr. David Branch. David, thank you so much for taking some time out and talking to us.
Hey, listen, I'm really pleased to have the opportunity, and like I said to you before we started, appreciate everything you do for hockey and our league, and it's great.
Obviously, the first question would be, how's the tournament's well underway? Obviously, how have you been enjoying yourself in the city of Windsor?
Well, you know what? It's been fabulous. The hospitality of the city. I didn't realize there were so many neat places to go and see in Windsor, quite frankly. Usually, you come in for a game and you leave, right? So it's afforded me that opportunity. The volunteers are just an incredible group that they have here that serve the tournament in many different ways. And then you put that together with the host organizing committee and the work they do, and the Spits, and what's kind of nice too is that the hometown team is off to a great start. So that bodes well. It helps to, create even more excitement and enthusiasm, and that's what you hope for when you have a tournament. It's a long time, but it's a great time, and couldn't be asking for any more.
There are a couple questions we've been talking about all year on our show as fans watching this, and one of them has been so far the imbalance of the conferences. We've seen especially the top 5 teams all coming through the Western Conference. Are we starting to get to a point where we're going to switch up the 1-16 format like the QMJHL has, or maybe change it for a wild card like the NHL does? Because a lot of even in the media now, they're starting to talk, and Windsor versus London, such a great playoff series, shouldn't be happening in the first round.
Well, this year you're absolutely right, and actually for the last few years you're right. I know in the Quebec League, and all due respect to that sweater you're wearing, in 5 years the 16th place team hasn't won a game. That isn't right either. I think that there's value in preserving as much as you can the divisional rivalries that you develop and so forth. I think we as well have to respect the student athlete and not put too much unnecessary travel on too early in the playoff trail. I mean, the National Hockey League has a very interesting playoff format, and but still, I mean, when you look at some of the top teams that went out in the first or second round in their league as well, there's no guarantees here, Now, that's not to suggest we won't challenge ourselves and see if there's some tweaking that we can do. It's, I think, important that you always look and reflect on any number of things you do, and our playoff structure is one of them, to see is there something that might be a little bit better but not lose some of the values and principles that I alluded to as to why we currently do it the way we do.
We started kind of seeing it at the World Juniors, Toronto, Montreal having it. You talk obviously a lot with Hockey Canada. We saw a lot more empty seats, especially up in Montreal. People are starting to say, it's starting to get priced out. We're starting to see it a little bit here at the Memorial Cup this year with a lot of empty seats. Even for a Windsor Spitfires game, we have, some of the W versus the Q. That's kind of the one everyone worries about. Are we starting to get to that point that it's like maybe we start outpricing ourselves? Or obviously, some of the teams set those, but how do you keep it between the corporate level and the grassroots level? Because the corporate level is getting much more important these days.
But we recognize that our strength is our fans, and we're very fortunate to have loyal fans. We know that, and so we should never lose sight of that. I sit on the steering committee for the hosting of the World Junior Tournament, as you touched on, the last 2 years. We did a debrief recently. I think there was more than one factor, but ticket pricing was one, for sure, that we recognized, and we're looking now for plans and arrangements in Vancouver and Victoria for 2019. But back to this tournament, it's, hey, we're just getting started. We're not even maybe in the middle of it, and hey, let's get through it, and that's the time that we reflect, look, and get advice and opinions from obviously the Spitfires and other people around our great game, including our fans.
Well, we talked about that grassroots level of fans. So many, no matter what the price is, so many great fans coming to this event every year. We just saw them on Sportsnet last night, the junior hockey junkies, people like that. So many different jerseys, as we reference. How important is that to keep that up every year?
Well, that's been evolving and growing, and it's fabulous. And I don't know if you are really on the leading edge of information here, but tonight is Elvis Presley night.
It is, yes.
Okay, so let's not, and that's the junior hockey junkies, and they bring something that adds to the overall, fun and experience, and that's what you want. And they're passionate people, they're great people, and there's other people from across the country who aren't necessarily part of their club that also come. So I think it's terrific, and it speaks volumes of what our game is all about and what it means, and the excitement, the enthusiasm, the passion.
Steve and I are wrestling fans, and something that's changed recently in the years is they've decided to say, to heck with traditional markets. They created their own network and streamlined with pay-per-views and stuff. Now we're seeing Rogers, Mississauga, unfortunately closing right before the finals. That was a big hit. And more people are cord cutting. And yet you're seeing fans also who come, like you say, every year, and they want to see the QMJHL and WHL teams. Would it not be a great time to introduce a CHL all-inclusive network where you can watch all three leagues and stuff? Because that's where everything seems to be going now, is digital.
Well, that whole area is one that we're obviously discussing with the right people. We have a partnership with Sportsnet, and they cover the three leagues during the course of the season with the national broadcasts and regional broadcasts, and they're great partners. The Rogers Mississauga situation did not take away from the broadcast of the final. They made sure that the Steelheads and the Otters games were shown to a conclusion. I know there's discussion. I know there's some plans already in place where there will be games shown on Rogers for Mississauga Steelheads. Okay. But to your point, it's constantly changing, and I'm sure you look at me and think I'm a real techie, but I'm not. So I leave that to many other people that we're fortunate to have within our league and who are experts in that area. And it's a great question, great comment. It's discussion that we're currently having among the three leagues, and as well our partner Sportsnet. So we'll see how it evolves, because we certainly want to make sure that we are on the leading edge so as to communicate and show our games to our fans.
The other question I'll kick myself if I don't ask you is, at the Memorial Cup, attendance versus quality. I've been pitching forth an idea about like a cup-style tournament, like in soccer, tournament that fourth team instead of a host team. We're lucky this year we're seeing a host team that's really competitive. And most years the host team is very competitive, staying around, at least getting one win. But to have four champions, is that something that the CHL looks into every year, or are they more than happy to keep the host team to keep the attendance at a certain level?
Well, the host team does a few things. One, yes, attendance at a certain level, the engagement of the community, and that, what I touched on earlier, the excitement, the passion, the interest. It's hard to generate that, in our view, at our level without a host team. But, that said, too, I know that somewhere down the road, we've had some discussions, and undoubtedly more with USA Hockey and what may evolve there, and where we might get a fourth team there into the tournament, as you say. But right for now, the host team is really essential, and that's why we have to be very diligent, work extremely hard to study and analyze and project how that team will do. And here you are, the Spits are 2-0. And yes, you can say, well, they lost it out early in the playoffs, but that said, they had injuries, they had other circumstance, and including London's a pretty damn good team. So but you know what? We knew they were going to certainly prepare and regroup and be ready for a great tournament, and kudos to them.
There's a lot of education too that goes into being a junior fan. Of course, we're people who use message boards, talking on Twitter and stuff like that. when my father got season tickets, there was a lot explaining to him what a AB card is, what gold education versus normal education package, what an OA trade deadline versus a regular trade deadline. Would that be something that you guys are looking forward to in the future to educate your fans? And because there's a lot of intricacy compared to any other hockey for junior hockey, and it's very interesting, but there's not a lot to read or understand how exactly it works.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can never ever not support the fact that, you know, communicating what's going on, what's about to go on some of the areas that you've described is extremely important. And we recognize that that's an area that maybe we should, you know, do a little bit better on, and we will. But as the various pieces of technology evolve, it also enables us to do it as well. So, I mean, we're very fortunate with, as I touched on earlier, some of the young people we've got among our office team and the work they do in that area.
And they do a great job.
You know, we don't have much time. We got to let you have dinner first of all before the game.
Doesn't look like I missed many dinners though, does it?
No, I'm one to talk. But so kind of with that in mind, you know, what is your day-to-day like at an event like this? Because obviously it's a super busy event. You know, lots of sponsors, lots of games to go to every night. We're almost getting a little tired. We didn't have our tailgate until 3 o'clock today. Can you believe that?
We're slacking.
Yeah. What is your day-to-day kind of routine like at a big event like this?
Well, it's an opportunity that we seize when we have the three leagues together to meet and discuss not only internally as three leagues on playing rules and other, you know, special events that are coming at us for next year, from our prospects game to our Canada-Russia series, etc. But as well, I mean, we meet, as you touched on, with some of our suppliers and sponsors. We had a real good meeting earlier today with our Dr. Michael Zarnata, who looks after our concussion management program. We're really, like every league, challenging how we can better serve our players in terms of head injuries and the like. So that's the type of things that we do, and our time is well spent. I mean, to the point where we sometimes say, "Wow, we got to get out of the hotel and you know, let's have a look around," which we've done a couple of times. But no, it's a great opportunity. We seize the opportunity, and it's a very, very productive time.
Very last question. As a Spitfire fan, will you tell us who else bid on this tournament?
That was getting that. Yeah, you guys were kind of playing that one close to the vest a little bit.
No.
That's the easy answer. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Branch. We do appreciate your time with us, and this has been so far for the fans who are here, especially us. We've enjoyed ourselves immensely, and we're looking forward to some more great hockey. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, no, listen, as I said off the top, thank you. We appreciate your support. It's people like yourself that make us go, and without you, we're not near the league we are. So I keep it going, and hopefully we get a chance to chat sometime, not 3 years from now, but sooner than later.
Well, the 100th Memorial Cup next year's a big one. Maybe we'll be there.
That'll be a special time. Regina's going to do a great job, and we're all excited about that.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Commissioner Branch. When we come back, we will wrap up the Erie Otters and the St. John Sea Dogs here on the OHL Fanboys podcast.